Hello, welcome to the Sovereign Magazine Show, a transformational experience where conscious conversations meet embodied wisdom. Each episode invites visionary healers, thought leaders, and change makers to share their journeys of awakening, offering listeners practical tools and soul stirring insights to reclaim their inner authority. Today, we have Muslimah Tobias here. And if you missed episode one, which was all about attuning to the body's wisdom and the language beneath thought, definitely go back and watch episode one because it's the foundation for our year-long show. But today we're talking about the art of unmasking, reclaiming truth in a world that rewards performance. So I'm going to have Muslima introduce herself and then we will get right into the topic.
Thank you, Nicole, for that warm welcome. I'm so grateful to be here again. Yes, the art of unmasking. This is probably one of my favorite topics because my work centers mostly around this. Um, Before I get into that, yeah, let me introduce myself. I am Muslima. I am a holistic wellness and spiritual embodiment coach. I am the CEO and founder of the Soul Collective, and that is a movement to return back to our ancient roots of remembrance. And I specifically work with neurodivergent, those who are unmasking and those who are reclaiming their truth and returning back to their divine identity. My work centers around holistic wellness, intuition, spirituality, and quantum healing. But more important than any title, I'm neurodivergent myself, and I am a mom of 6 neurodivergent children. So yeah, let's get into it. The art of unmasking. Unmasking is having that choice and agency to show up as your authentic self, like without having, and also most importantly, having discernment to know with who and with whom and how much of yourself you allow yourself with. Because I think a lot of times when we think of unmasking, we think we're just putting down the mask and we're just opening ourselves. And we are more than just the human being. We are a spiritual being. So we have this energetic, we want to protect our energetic like realm. And so unmasking is navigating that landscapes of your creative expressions and learning to lean into your truth, but in a way that feels safe and aligned. Yeah, masking usually it is a survival strategy, but I want to make an important distinction because everyone masks, and a lot of people think, well, like everyone masks. But when we talk about neurotypical masking, that is more behavior that might look like code switching in the workplace, maybe socially, but it's not something that is changing the core essence of who you are. When we're talking about neurodivergent masking, we are talking about a survival strategy. You are literally self-editing yourself in real time. Am I is my tone right? You're being very hyper vigilant within yourself and those around you. Is my tone too loud? Because somewhere along the way, when you were younger, you were told to turn it down too much, and that felt like that was unacceptable, and you felt rejected, and it became a point of, well, I need to hide these parts of myself in order to feel safe. And when you are repeatedly rejected over time, you start to suppress yourself. You suppress it, you repress it, deny it, even disown those parts. And that is the fragmentation of your identity. And the distance between who you had to be, you thought you had to be to survive, and who you truly are, that distance is the mask that is protecting you. So that means those parts of you are still there. There's always there, just hidden and buried underneath all of the mechanisms, the adaptations to allow you to just go through. But when we talk about now truth in the world that rewards performance, that is at some point we learned to be an authentic cause or belonging, because the world, when it comes to performance, we mean we see only the outside, we don't see what is going on underneath. And I don't know if you heard of the term high functioning, which I don't like to really use because it kind of takes like, oh, you're capable. Just because you're showing that you're capable outside, on the outside you're very empathetic, you're adaptable. And it's like, oh, you're so strong. And it's like, are you strong or are you just surviving? Because underneath that is usually collapse, and people are usually at the brink of burnout. And that calls, and then that goes into the cause of unmasking, which is like exhaustion, burnout, anxiety, cortisol levels go up because you're in the constant fight or flight. And then that means that's inflammation. So that means you're weakening your immune system. You get all the disorders. It's just a domino effect. So it literally becomes a matter of survival, like, or life or death. yeah, that's just the gist of what it is for the art of unmasking and reclaiming truth in the world of performance.
When I thought about this show today, I thought that we would be talking about mostly adults, but I'm really being called strongly. Well, you mentioned your children are neurodivergent.
Okay,
And
yes.
so I'm being called really strongly. They were showing me a picture. My guides were showing me a picture of a child in school, high functioning. And you were talking about autoimmune diseases and the domino effect.
Yeah.
And what I thought we were going to be talking about is like, in this world, how our system rewards women, to perform in a certain way and at what cost, right? But I'm really starting to feel into them asking, like, it starts in our children. And I know some of your children do go to traditional school and some children are homeschooled, right? Is that
Yeah,
correct? I have
they
that right.
they all started homeschool for a majority were, and they started traditional public school last year, but now they're in a private school this year. So they only had 2 years experience outside. But yeah, there's a big difference of
Right.
seeing them growing up without having to mask and me having to mask and seeing that distance. But yeah, this topic is so big because what you brought up about truth, performance, that's another thing I didn't mention, but like especially as women, like the good girl syndrome, it's like, oh, you're so strong, like you've gone through so much. I've heard that so many times myself. Oh, you're so strong. And that's why I mentioned, like, am I strong or was I surviving? Is that something I had to do in order to survive? Otherwise, and then we're start talking about suicide. That's a whole nother thing because some people, it's too much, it's too unbearable, and they don't even feel like that they can survive anymore. Why do I even have to be here if I'm ostracized, if I'm not accepted? Am I different? If I can't just be who I am, what is the point? So yeah, the topic is very so it depends on which way you want to go. We can focus on that.
Yeah, well, I would love to kind of start at the foundation, which is with children. And I'm just imagining these children being in a classroom and having to perform in a certain way, right? And
Yeah,
masking and what that does to shape us as we get older. I mean, I'm neurodivergent as well, but I
yeah,
didn't find out until I was 45 that I was neurodivergent. And I tell my daughter all the time, oh my gosh, how much easier would school have been for me if I had known? But I was that quiet girl, the girl that sat in the back and just kind of stared. I flew under the radar because I had no idea what was going on in school because I didn't understand any of it. So I just would love to begin this conversation around, that safety and authenticity and unmasking needs to begin in childhood, not in
yeah.
adulthood, right?
Yes. Yes, definitely. I noticed a difference when my children were homeschooled and then they went to traditional school because I just allow my children to be their children and children, you just allow them to be. They play, they move. We are beings who are meant to move. And so when they had first went to school, I remember I had got a text from one of my son when he was in second grade. And she was like, I just want you to talk to your son. Your son was being really loud in the lunchroom. And I'm asking, like, I need context what happened. She said, well, they had a quiet game and they won. And so he screamed. So I'm like, he screamed out of excitement. Okay, I'll talk to him. And did I talk to him? Because what so and then it just clicked and I was like, that's exactly why I didn't want to put them in there because are you telling me that he needed to tone down his excitement because he was excited about? And so yeah, when we're talking about kids or in school, it's kind of like you have to sit down in chairs for long periods of time. You raise your hands when you said you can't do this. Everyone has to operate in this certain box in order for it to work. And that is just from like if we go deep into it, we're talking about like the system hierarchies, how everything's set up. I don't know if you heard of like the school to prison pipeline or just the school to work pipeline.
Mhm,
So everything is
mhm,
orchestrated in the way for you to be. So they want you to be like within this box. So you cannot be the way you want you to be. I need you to be the way I want you to be so you can work within this like, pipeline. And yeah, it starts with children because when we are born into this world, we don't have any of these limited beliefs. We come in our fitra, which is our natural and true state, and the way our disposition is supposed to be. And then it's through parenting, not just through in the house with our parents, but also through school. It's just those little moments of telling you this is not okay, this is not acceptable, you can't do this, you're doing this, and because it's not the norm, which is so ironic because we are individuals. We are meant to be completely different. Like we're literally snowflakes. We have different fingerprints. Each of us don't even have the same fingerprint. So why do we need to have the same personality? Is kind of like constricting down to the so yeah, it's feeling safe because even when I notice with my children just allow themselves to move, to scream, I think about my own upbringing and I'm just like sometimes I just watch my children like, wow, like I can't imagine doing some of the things that they're doing because they'll be like, oh my goodness, you're doing too much, like sit down. Everything, a lot of words you hear is sit down or you being too loud or you doing too much or even you're being too
Yeah.
sensitive or stop crying, that alone. And if we understand that sensitivity is what makes us human, it is what makes us alive, it is what makes us feel, then we will have, yeah, we have understanding to recognize this is just a part of the human nature. And, but yeah, it's giving
Yeah.
that environment, that safe environment for them to feel. Because if you don't feel safe to be who you are, then because we co-regulate with each other too. That's another thing. Underneath our human bodies, our nervous system literally co-regulates. So that's why with some people you feel safe with, and others you don't. And then nature itself, that's one of my favorite co-regulators. I always tell people when you don't feel like you have safe environments, go out into nature because you don't get to perform in nature. You can lay on the ground, you can hug the tree. It takes you as you are and lets you be who you are. Yeah.
I love that so much. Oh my gosh. And I don't know if I've shared with you. So my daughter started out at a Waldorf, more nature-y based school, more feeling type school, didn't have to perform in a certain way. And then we moved her into homeschooling for several years. And then eventually we figured out that part of stimulating her is social interaction as we are human beings, right? And so she
Yeah.
needs that personal connection. So it felt right for us to put her back into traditional school around sixth grade. And we saw her flourish, but we also saw the constructed realities of what she needed to do and what she needed to conform to. And at that point, she hadn't really been introduced to a lot of tech, and everything is so techy now in school. So
Yeah.
that was a very, very hard thing for us because we are a very low tech household. We like never have our TV on and things like that. Like, so the overstimulation part of school was really challenging for her at some point. And I love that I've been able to work with her to continue to foster her just being herself and finding her tribe. That has been huge because she's learning that being herself is only for certain people. And she's going to have to
Yes.
try things out and they may not stay the same. And so there's this fluidity between relationships and not masking, right? She has said to me before that when she goes to school, she wants to be who she is. And I'm like, as you should be. And you will realize those people that you really connect with will embrace you exactly how you are. So her latest set of friends, they all read together, whereas her last set of friends, none of them read and they made fun of her for reading. And I know you
Yeah.
and I are avid readers. And so
Yeah.
there comes this teaching and modeling and accepting and reaffirming that we need to do as parents that's also good for ourselves, right? And so I would love for us to talk a little bit about adults as well and how we might need to go through some sort of maybe grieving process as we start to unmask. And I know that process for you was really challenging because you did go through divorce and a lot of that started because of that experience. So why don't you share how you unmasked and what you had to grieve and how others can do the same?
Yes, before I even had any of these terms, because I didn't know about neurodivergence until actually about a year ago. And once I learned about that, it's like the piece of a puzzle clicked and everything kind of just like quantum leap from there. But the process of healing first I was intellectualizing. I think we talked about in the first episode, intellectualizing and being in your mind. And as long as you're in your mind, you're not actually healing. The nervous system is in the body, so we have to go into the body. So for me, it was about learning to go back into my body and building safety first, because a lot of times. we think unmasking is we can just change ourselves. We just do these behaviors, do this thing. But if you are trying to do habits or goals, you're going to find yourself reverting back. You'll find yourself in a situation or you'll find yourself in another relationship in the same patterns. It's because your nervous system is meant to protect you. It's like, what is she doing? Like she's putting us at danger. And so it's allowing yourself to slow down and to do it in increments, small increments, slowing down. That was like breathing deeply. Like for me, like I said, I spent hours in nature. That was one of the things to help calm my nervous system and to give it the environment to turn off. Because what happens is when you're in survival mode, your body is in that is turned on fight and flight. So imagine like a dog is coming and you get that adrenaline rush. It never turns off. And so we mentioned that cortisol levels up, you have inflammation, so your body is already just constantly trying to survive. It can't even heal because it's trying to survive. So it's learning to turn it off. So finding experiences to turn it off, like I said, nature or being around safe people, breathing deeply, slowing down. Maybe you're so used to rushing, trying to give yourself more time to allow yourself to slow down, but giving your body those experiences. What does safety feel like? And then from that safety, that's like the prerequisite, that is the foundation. And then from there, then you can start implementing other stuff, going back into your mind and like combining it together. Um, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I feel like I was getting somewhere. You had mentioned what was what did you ask again? I feel like I got
Yeah,
stuck
I
in a
think I
loop.
asked about what did like unmasking look like for you, especially as you were approaching divorce and really that grief that you kind of had to go through in order to unmask.
Yeah, they call it the dark night of the soul. That looks I remember when I first did my first meditation, just to sit there. I think it was like a 20-minute. I do not recommend going into like these deep, long meditations, especially like as a neurodivergent when if you have well, it's been a long time, so I've been working on my mindset, but if you are coming from a place and you still have this negative loop, if you find yourself in meditation, you might just find yourself just looping in that negativity. So it's always good to start small, like 5 minutes. But anyway, I was in this it was like a gratitude abundance meditation, and I just started like crying like 5 minutes in, and I was like, what is going on, what is happening? And crying is very cathartic, and that's also another release of like hormones. I'm sure, well, I haven't talked to as many, but I'm sure like when you become numb and from being survival, you don't even cry, you don't find yourself crying, you're holding back. And so the process of unmasking is not only safety, but allowing yourself to let go, to release all of the unexpressed energy that's in your body. So tears and then body movement is a whole nother thing, especially stretching, because all of those emotions, they don't go, they get suppressed into the fascia and the muscles and the cells. And so when you're stretching and you move your body, you allow yourself to allow all of that to soften and to let go. And another beautiful thing that happens is it softens your heart. And the heart is the center, the compass of our soul, and it is we talked about in the first one, the wisdom and the intelligence. It has its own nervous system. And so now you get to strengthen all of your gifts. So for me, unmasking, so allowing that armor to come off and allowing those parts, it allowed me to see all of the parts of me that was hidden. And sometimes that looks like being in a relationship, because sometimes we are all mirrors for each other. And I had met a friend at one point, and then it was through her that actually allowed me to unmask a lot of parts of me really fast. And because I don't know, like through her, she was like a mirror for all of the things that I forgot I was. Because in healing, everything was so serious. I was this project to work on, like this self-improvement project. I need to do this, I need to do this. And then when she came, it was kind of like, oh my goodness, where is my joy? Like I forgot this happy part of me. And joy is one of the fastest way to heal, because you're just being. You're not performing, you're not doing, you're literally just being. And when you get to be, you flow. Our body are natural healing mechanisms. Like we don't have to heal our body. Like we could just live and be, and we literally just heal. And that was a beautiful revelation within that. But yeah, when it comes to grieving, there were lots of parts that I had to grieve, because there's so many identities, and it's like at each level it feels very dark and deep. And for some people, that's why they don't even want to to go there. It's kind of like, oh, it's so scary, the dark shadows. And oh my, but once you recognize the darkness is not the fear, is not the dark or shadow that you think it is. People think it's a monster. It's just the small parts of you that were afraid. Like if you look at it as the little kid that just like need love and attention, like you suppressed it, you denied it, you abandoned it. It wants you to come back. Like so you have to, it's literally going back to those parts of yourself and reconnecting, building relationship and accepting it. So now we're talking about self-forgiveness, self-acceptance, self-love, and then allows you to start to bring those parts back together. And that's when we start to integrate the self, and to become whole again because it was just those parts of us that was fragmented. So yeah, it's a whole process, but that first thing was having a space of safety, putting yourself in spaces where you feel safe around people, where you feel safe doing things that make you feel safe, finding something that you like to do. One thing that I love to do is just having tea. Like sometimes if I feel like something's overwhelmed, maybe I'll go outside for a walk because that clears my mind and makes me feel good. Or I'll just have like a really nice hot cup of tea because that feels like an internal hug to me. So it's finding things that make you feel good and to know that I deserve to feel safe. I deserve to feel good. And a lot of us don't think we didn't deserve to feel that because we spent most of our lives just, you don't deserve that. Why are you doing this? Because then also the thing becomes when you start to become who you are, and that happened to me too. Once you start to unmask and you start to show who your authentic self, you get shown the same thing that happened why you repress yourself in the first place. So some people might want to regress it. That's why I didn't want to come back out here because you're not, why are you being so difficult? Why are you being so stubborn? Who do you think you are? And yeah, that makes people kind of want to rant or then your own shadow. So that's why safety is so important to have that community within yourself so you can flow through that. Yeah. A lot of, unfortunately for me, I felt like a lot of that journey for me was very isolated alone. And that's why I use nature as my co-regulator. And so I always tell people, if you don't feel like you have anybody, nature, go find a park, go find a lake and just spend time in there. And then start reading books there. Maybe start writing, creative expression. But that doesn't happen until you find safety. So just go outside and just sit down, rest without guilt. Like nothing to do, nowhere to go. Just be in the moment. Yeah.
And if you can do it with six kids and a business, anybody can
Yeah.
do it, right? Right? You're
Yes.
reclaiming your inner compass, your inner knowing. And I love the fact that you use nature as your co-regulator because it's free. And a lot of
Yeah.
people feel like they need to buy all these things or depend on somebody else for their healing when all you need is within you. I mean, that's all that I've been hearing on this show
Yeah.
is this freedom that awaits on the other side of performance, but it all starts within, and that's where all the
Yes.
gifts are, right?
Yeah, because there are so many things you could do externally. Like we could talk about weighted blankets. A friend gave me that. That feels so good. You could put a weighted blanket. You can swing. There's so many things. But yeah, you want to get used to knowing that everything that you have is inside of you. You can move in your body. That's just yourself. Going outside in nature, that's yourself. Giving yourself like tea or just some food that's of comfort. That's everything is within. It doesn't have to cost money to to
No, it doesn't. I have a
to
weighted
heal.
blanket too, and I love it. I love it. It's
Yeah.
very important for me. Yes, yes, I didn't realize how much I needed that. Well, I would love to remind everyone that we're going to be talking about neurodivergency as sovereignty next time, and that your sensitivity, even if you aren't neurodivergent, is truly a superpower. That's going to be our next episode. And so, if you're finding that you need some help in, finding safety within your body and learning more about your body, this is going to be an episode for you to really tap into that sensitivity because I truly believe we all have psychic abilities. We're all intuitive. We all are empaths on some sort of level. And it just depends on how much we have and how sensitive or attuned we are. And so, as we tap into this topic next time, you're going to be learning about your own personal expression and what lights you up and what makes you feel good and what makes you feel safe and claiming all of that. So, if you haven't liked, shared, subscribed, commented, all of those things, definitely do that below because we're going to be bringing Muslimah back for another episode and you won't want to miss one. Thank you so much for being here today. And if you would like to talk to Muslimah, she's in our community, community.sovereign-magazine.com. All her details will be in the show notes as to how you can connect with her. And we will see you on the next one.
Thank you so much. I hope you have enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, lovely.